Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryant and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 10, Episode 71. He's Dave Bryant. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being with us this Monday, Steelers Nation. Full disclosure, we are recording this on Friday night because at this point, Monday, I'll be in Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl. Myself and Daniel Valente will be covering things down there for the week. So this will be our kind of Senior Bowl preview. Monday is a press conference. Tuesday is when the weigh-ins and practice and everything really important starts happening. So just a little preview there and disclosure. And hello, Dave. How are you?
I had a great weekend.
See in the future.
Yeah, hopefully I did. I'm going to speak this into existence here. And, boy, how about those 49ers, huh? No, obviously we don't know what happened. I really am looking forward, though.
It was crazy when they had you play quarterback in the fourth quarter. You led that game-winning drive. That was an awesome moment.
Holy moly, can you imagine?
How Shanahan found you, but
yeah,
good job.
My football days are long behind. So my softball days are more recent, and even those are long behind me at this point. But yeah, look, I mean, obviously got the East-West Shrine game, NFLPA Bowl happening over the weekend, and obviously the championship games. By the time people hear this will obviously have already taken place as well, and as you mentioned, you'll be on the way to the Senior Bowl. So exciting time of the year. Draft season is upon us, and Friday, of course, was the deadline for underclassmen to decide whether or not they want to enter the draft.
Yeah, and we'll talk about some of those guys throughout the episode, and obviously it'll be a Senior Bowl focus, but we will bounce around to some other news and notes from around the college football landscape. But before we do that, Dave, I know on Friday, as of the time we're recording this, it's a couple of days old by the time people listen to this, you had one of your patented salary cap breakdowns. I'm just starting to look it over because I just posted a little while ago. So give us an overview of what that perspective was and some of the implications of what you wrote.
Yeah, once again, when you look at this thing, I think you gotta look at the salary cap as road, as rest stops along the way, as kind of measuring points in this long race. Because there are a lot of things that have got to be accomplished and accommodated throughout this process, and it's easy to lump, and I know I've done this in the past, it's easy to lump everything together and think, well, they got to clear this amount of money now for later, and that's just not the case. Obviously, the first real big measuring stick or timing point, or however you want to, whatever you want to call it, is the start of the new league year on March 18th, and that, of course, is when the Rule of 51 kicks in, and when teams have to be compliant. And obviously, before then, they're going to have to issue possibly a franchise tag on Bud Dupree and some restricted tenders, and that restricted tenders could be, I don't know, 3-4 players, something along those lines, if things go the way that we think that they're going to go, and also a couple of contract terminations. I don't think there's any way around that happening this offseason as well, too. So what I wanted to do is go into this weekend. We're right at the 2-month mark before the start of the new league year, and now with a lot of the futures signed and with the team over 51 players on the roster now, you have a nice rule of 51 number to kind of work with. So I just want to give a snapshot in time of where they're at right now. And right now being Friday, January, what are we, 17th, as far as the salary cap goes, and look ahead at the work that's got to be done between now and the start of the new league year, 2 months from now. Now, currently, we still don't have a actual known number for what the salary cap will be for the league in 2020. Early estimates have it, and a lot of people are working off a $200 million number right now. So the final number is going to come in right around that, I would think. The Steelers have a little over $3 million in carryover from 2019. So effectively, they have a effective cap number of 203, a little over 203 million at this point. Now, their Rule of 51 number right now, which is their top 51 salary cap charges, equates to almost 199 million dollars. So you're almost right there at your number. I've got an OTA workout debt placeholder in there that'll hit sometime here in the near future here of nearly $700,000, and right now they have dead money on the books for 2020 for 2.68, almost 2.569 million dollars. All that means, it probably is weird to listen to over a podcast, all those numbers rattled off. The long and short of it right now is their estimated cap space as we sit here today off of a roll of 51 is 839,352. So obviously less than $1 million of estimated cap space to work with, and they have done zero off-season work right now. So obviously, what do we think's likely to happen here in the next couple months? We think the team's going to franchise Bud Dupree, right?
Yeah, I think that's been made very clear by the team.
All right, obviously, and as we mentioned a few times, a way to avoid that is to get him signed to a long-term contract extension ahead of time. It sure would be nice if they did that, were able to do that, although I'm not willing to bet that will happen. So all of my work kind of assumes that they're going to have to afford a franchise tag amount on Bud Dupree that's currently estimated about 6.2, almost $16.3 million there. Now, of the players that are scheduled to be restricted free agents, I think you and I both agree at least three of them, Mike Hilton, Matt Filer, and Zach Banner, are all going to receive restricted tenders. I would think, being as how Mike Hilton and Matt Filer are both former undrafted free agents, those guys will get second-round restricted tenders in the amount of roughly $3.278 million. And a guy like Zach Banner, I believe a former fourth-round draft pick, will get an original round tender a little bit lower at roughly around $2.144 million. Is that the kind of the way that you foresee this happening here with those guys?
100%, because if you give original round tenders to Hilton and Fowler as UDFAs, the Steelers only have the right of first refusal. They can only match a contract. They get no compensation if other teams come calling, which would be possible in that scenario. And that's the thing you got to think about. Everyone thinks about, okay, well, to keep Dupree, you just got to cut these guys and you're good. But there's so many other things this team has to do to retain some key players other than just cutting Chicolo and the like to keep Dupree. It's not that simple.
Right, and all this is just to get done by March 18th.
Right. Yeah.
With that, so I think when you add up the restricted tenders, we expect those three players to get, which totals out to, where do I have it here? $8.7 million. When you add that to the $266 million we expect the tag to be on Bud Dupree, you come to an overwhelming kind of total of almost $25 million. Wow. And with them only having not even $1 million in cap space, that is that's very overwhelming. It's right at about $24 million in cap space that they need. And it's going to be tough. I mean, quite honestly. Now, we've been talking for I don't know how long now about a good chance that Ramon Foster, Anthony Chicolo, and Mark Barron will all have their contracts terminated. I think at this point, and running the numbers, I think we'll be surprised if that doesn't happen with those three, correct?
Especially once you look at the numbers and realize the hole this team is in and their obvious priority of keeping Dupree. Yeah, it's looking more likely than not. Chicolo is a certainty. Foster and Barron are more debatable, but probably more likely than not to go.
All right, cutting those. I hate to say cut. It just sounds so derogatory. I mean, it is what it is, but contract terminations.
It's not. You keep using that phrase. It does not sound better.
All right.
It is
how about deletion?
One-sided departure.
How about
deletion? Deletion is still worse. It is saying goodbye. We are saying goodbye.
All right.
Wishing them well.
Trying to be polite about it here. Obviously termination of those three players, just in raw cap savings, prior to roster displacement is $14.25 million. Okay. Now, I kind of broke this instead of doing a roster displacement. I kind of did a tit for tat here. I tabled up the three restricted tenders of Mike Hilton, Matt Filer, and Zach Banner just to make an even swap here, player for player. That way we're not worried about roster displacement in the Rule of 51. You get where I'm coming from there?
I do, but to be clear, you don't have Vance in this current equation.
No, but I did mention him in the article. We'll get to that point here in a minute. So you stand to save $14.25 million in cap savings, but you're gonna be replacing those guys with $8.7 million in restricted tenders. So all in all, you come out with a wash of about $5.55 million in savings, and you've deleted three, and you've added you've got your restricted free agents tender there. All right. So now, what does a new Rule of 51 look like without Chicolo, Foster, and Barron, but with Hilton, Filer, Banner, and a tag on Dupree? Well, all that, the Rule of 51 would, up against a $200 million salary cap, would look like 9.366, almost 9.367 million over the cap. All right.
Okay.
So all we've done at this point is we've got Dupree tagged, we've got three restricted free agents tendered, and we have the three deletions of Chicolo, Foster, and Barrett, and we're still almost $9.5 million over the cap.
So I guess the next question is, how do you get the rest of the way?
Yeah, that's going to be the fun part.
I was hoping for a better answer, but fair enough.
Now, look, a lot of people point to these restructures and all like that. The best case scenario people should be hoping for is that the CBA gets extended. I know there's been some rumblings about maybe possibility of that happening here in the near future. Boy, it would be great if such a thing happened, especially when it comes to the 30% rule going away. Okay.
But it's impossible to obviously count on that happening that quickly, and I don't expect it to be honest with you.
Yeah, look, I mean, you read this stuff on Pro Football Talk, and you read, you just don't know what to believe.
Right. Kevin Colbert can't trust that Mike Flory's info is good to set his cap space.
Right, exactly. Now, looking at the traditional way that restructures are done with the Steelers, and looking at the 30% rule, and everything that goes along with that, and looking at the players that you would gain any kind of savings with in restructuring, you have a max restructure total of $9.608, almost $9.609 million, okay, adhering to the 30% rule. Now, are there other non-traditional kind of option bonus type ways, things that the Steelers don't do? Yeah, there are different ways around that, but I mean, it would take me another 30 minutes to explain those, and I'm not even sure. Look, it's hard to project something and predict something that the organization just has not participated in, in the past. So we've got to try to make this seem as real as possible, and maybe we'll learn something along the way with them willing to do something outside the realm, creative, if you will. Other teams have gone kind of the option bonus kind of way. Until they do it, I just can't see them doing it, if that makes sense there.
It does.
Now, are they going to go after all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys and restructure whatever they can to get that extra $9 million? Because it just so happens that $9.6 million covers the discrepancy, overage that they have. So I suppose that is an option for them to do.
Well, read the list of names here of the guys that are potential restructure candidates.
All right. From most amount to gain to least. Ben Roethlisberger, $3.192 million. Now, if there wasn't a 30% rule to deal with, you could get almost $10 million worth of restructure with him.
So that's why you're rooting for the CBA to get done.
Right. Because I mean, just him alone,
would take care of it.
Right, would take care of it there. So, but in the meantime, you're limited. Look, I think they do him regardless. And get that $3.192 million that they can get there. Stephon Tuitt, $1.384 million. David DeCastro, a little over $1 million in savings. Steven Nelson, $951,000, almost $952,000. Marquise Pouncey, $923,000. I'm just going to round these. Joe Hayden, $808,000. Vance McDonald, $738,000. Vince Williams, $462,000. Roosevelt Nix, just $138,000. Almost $138,500.
Here's my favorite.
Yeah, Chris Boswell, $1,200. That's a night on the town.
That's a Devlin Hodges signing bonus.
Yeah, almost $1,300 right there. You can clear up.
And that's not a mistake. That's literally $1,300 is what you're saying.
You are correct, sir.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So you can tell how this 30% rule is really limiting, especially when it comes to the restructure. Now. We've talked about Cameron Hayward. Could they get him signed to an extension between now and the start of the new league year? And obviously, if you didn't have the 30% rule with a new CBA, you make it a little bit maybe easier to lower his cap number a little bit. Sticking with the 30, and I haven't run the full numbers on what a contract would look like him yet, but I think general consensus would be saving, I don't know, $2 to $3 million by. Go ahead.
I got to be honest. I think that's a must. I think trying to restructure all these guys doesn't just get you just to basically zero. And I think you obviously are going to give Hayward an extension. I think
at some point.
Yeah, and so you might as well do it now and save you that $3 million, and so you don't have to restructure literally like a third of your roster. So I think that's a must to get done from now before the start of the new league year.
And it might save a job.
Honestly.
Along the way as well too here. We already talked about, what are the chances of them getting Dupree done before tagging, okay? Yeah. Even if they did and they had to adhere to the 30% rule, what are you going to save first year cap-wise versus, a tag of 16 whatever million? You're going to save about, I don't know, 4 or 5 million, because you still got to adhere to that 30% rule there and also adhere to the way that the Steelers normally like to do contracts.
Sure, but saving $4 or $5 million would be pretty huge in this landscape.
It is money saved nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to save it. Now, we can get back to talking about what are you going to do with Vance McDonald. Okay, if you don't, we're going to find out, and I think I said this the other day after writing about it and us talking about it on the podcast. We're going to find out how bad they need $5.6725 million. Is it a necessity to not pick up his option now and to free up that money and gut your depth chart?
Well, if you put him on that cut list, and I'm just rounding here, you'd be about $20 million saved total, right? With Chickalo, Foster, Barron, and McDonald. I think that's what you said before. It's about $20 million saved.
Yeah, back it up from from almost the $10 million that you need after tagging Dupree and getting the tenders.
Yeah, so if you did that, you restructured Ben, and you gave Hayward a contract extension, and let's say that saved $3 million cap space. That should get you cap compliant or just about, correct?
Yeah, with Ben and a Hayward extension and not picking up McDonald's option for 2020, that should get you there.
That might be your best way, which will give you a little more flexibility, a little bit for free agency, and obviously draft stuff. Well, is the rookie class factored into all this math? No. Okay, well then, yeah, that might be your best way because you got to factor in the draft class. Now, granted, you don't have a first-round pick. That saves a little bit of money, but still, that might be the way to do it. Mathematically, that's the most sound way. Obviously, it creates a hole at tight end, but you probably are going to address the position regardless. That's my view of it.
If you went ahead and didn't pick up that Vance McDonald fifth-year option, you'd have to turn around right away and try to get, or even beforehand, you'd have to get Nick Vannett probably re-upped for hopefully
to the minimum.
for next to nothing that would barely move your cap needle. Because your bottom rule of 51 number is a minimum salary at this point. So you're not even if his first year cap hit with Vanette was like, I don't know, let's say 800,000, 900,000. You're only talking about using up about 400,000 in cap space.
And I know that it's only going to save a very tiny bit. We talked about it on the podcast last week, but you might want to cut Ryan Switzer because that saves you what, $600K? And that matters. Every penny matters in this situation.
Man, I mean, it's
because he's not making the team. I mean, McCullers, I understand you'd like to come on paper, but you're losing Hargrave. You don't want to gut your depth. This isn't gutting your depth if you cut Switzer.
You have a chance to save. Where is it here?
I think it's about $600K. I think it's what you said, if I'm remembering correctly. But you can look it up.
Where is my sheet real quick? Let me look at Switzer. He's scheduled to earn $735,000 this year, whereas the bottom you would save $225,000 in cap space.
Oh, that's it. I thought it was more than that.
See, well, I mean, is it worth pulling the cushions off the couch?
With Switzer, I still might say yes. What's the savings on McCullers? It's a little more than that, I think.
Yeah, McCullers is scheduled to earn.
That might be the $600K.
1.5. So you would almost save almost $1 million with him in cap space.
I don't think the team would do it, but if I was running the show, I would, because I think McCullers has offered very little. He's gotten better, but not by much, and it saves you $1 million. I know you're losing Hargrave, but you're going to address the position anyway. I'd be very tempted to cut bait with Big Dan.
Yeah, what you do is you go to him and say, look, we're going to cut you if you don't take the minimum,
Right, yeah. Maybe you bring him back something or pay cut. I don't know, but that was how, again, if you had $20 million cap space, you're not making these moves. You're just fine. You might even cut a guy like Mark Barron or Ramon Foster, but when you're this up against it, that might be your path.
Here's the thing. You're still going to need money down the road, so you can keep them now. And, once again, is it worth gutting your depth for the summer? Because you never know what happened with damn injuries or whatnot.
Sure.
Is it worth getting that $1 million now or potentially later? Because there's nothing says you can't cut them later and still right. Recognize that $1 million. You're going to need some money later on anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they like that rainy day. They what is it, $5 million cash they like to have before the season starts?
Probably 6 this year.
6?
Yeah. Right around in there. I look at it this way to just on the work that I have outlined for them between now and March 18th. Even after that, they're going to need close to another $10 million to accommodate a practice squad. Let me read off the projected numbers that they're going to need. All right, okay. A practice squad is going to cost you $1.428 million. Okay. Mm-hmm. A draft class, as the draft class stands right now.
Is that factoring the comp pick or no?
Yes.
It is fact. Okay.
Yes. Draft class as it stands right now, minus displacement, will cost you about, and also some signing bonuses for some undrafted rookie free agents around. And this is where people get lost in this thing sometimes. They look at their draft class and, oh man, they're going to need at least $5 or $6 million for that. Well, you got the whole roster displacement that takes care of that. They only need one. I say only because anything that they need is they need $1.25 million roughly.
Oh, that's not bad.
All right, so you got $1.25 million there. You got one.
That's obviously aided by not having a first-round pick.
Absolutely. Let's go and round that up to $1.5 million. Let's call the practice squad $1.5 million. So there's $3 million there. They're going to need a 52nd and 53rd player. That's $1 million there. So we're up to 1.5. We're up to $4 million, right? There, and then $6 million for in-season cap space to use as reserve. So 4 plus 6 is 10, and that's what they're probably going to need post. Now, obviously, if you don't extend Dupree, if you have to tag Dupree, you would think that the end goal is what? To get an extension done with him, right?
Correct. Before the year starts.
Right. So hopefully, there's going to be, hopefully, you $3 million at some point, maybe relief or so with him, to go towards that $10 million.
But hopefully by then the CBA is done, ideally, and you do a long-term deal, and you can maybe get $5 to $6 million in relief.
Absolutely, and obviously, still you're going to have to still format. Those contracts are still going to adhere to the way the Steelers like to do business.
Sure.
You're going to have the cash flow in there, but at least it won't be so stringent when it comes to the 30%. Rule and increases when it comes to that. So yeah, I mean that's something else. Maybe the CBA gets worked out by then, and it kind of gives a little flexibility as far as an extension with Bud Dupree goes there. When you get to that point on there, and then look, as you said, there's going to be natural cuts of your Switzers and maybe your McCullers, and I mean, who else is going to be kind of vulnerable there where you can save some money in this thing,
Yeah. I don't know. I can't name this name coming to mind right now.
I mean, look, do you really want? I mean, you can save some money with a guy like Tyson Alulu. I mean,
yeah, I really don't want to though. I mean, about gutting depth. That's gutting depth.
Yeah, is it really worth cutting Jordan Berry to save $1.3 million now? When you're gonna have to replace him,
right? Yeah, again, if you're Omar Khan and you're just looking at this from a math perspective, you're saying the best way to do this now is to cut Foster, Barron, Chicolo, don't pick up McDonald's option, extend out Hayward, restructure Ben, and that's going to probably put you in the best position cap-wise without doing all that kind of craziness that would basically mean restructuring multiple players.
Right. Now, obviously, if something happens, once again, the best case scenario, I think, would be for a CBA to get extended between, now and the next couple of weeks here, if that happens, boy, that's going to really get. But I mean, how can you plan for such right now?
You can't. Not in 8 weeks. You just cannot hang your hat on that, and because I don't think it's likely just in general, and you certainly can't plan for that because if it doesn't, then you're just totally screwed.
I suppose you could restricted tender Hilton and Filer and turn around and try to sign those guys, but I mean, how much cap room are you going to save?
Right, and that goes back to the craziness where the easiest path is to do what I just said. I'm not saying that from a football standpoint there's a debate about it because, Vance, you're going to debate the merits of, okay, you lose a tight end and I got to reinvest in the tight end and it's a rookie and they don't transition from college game. There's a discussion to be had. But math-wise, if you're Omar Khan, you're saying here's the best way to do it. These are the quickest way to get cap compliant is by cutting those 4, restructuring Ben, doing that deal with Hayward.
I know people bring up the name maybe Vince Williams as well too, but I mean, what do you really say with him at this point? Not a lot,
What is the number? Do you have the number?
Hold on just a minute here, and I will tell you. Because of previous restructure on him, kind of hurts as well too. I think you say $968,000 pre.
Not worth it.
Pre roster displacement. So, 400. Is it worth saving? $400,000.
No.
To cut Vince Williams? The answer would be no.
What is my roadmap? The best way to look at it?
It's certainly. I think the only question is can you navigate? Will they or won't they be able to navigate around McDonald?
Yeah.
That's the biggest, I think, question at this point is will they or won't they be able to navigate around McDonald maybe via, going the full restructure route or something like that.
He's going to get the old Troy go retire treatment over here from this front office.
I mean, other than maybe doing something creative with his contract,
Somebody asked me, could you extend out Barron and Vance, because that's what they did that with Heath and Troy, didn't they? That sound right?
Yeah, and that I'm talking about that's getting into that creative aspect of options, and
I just think that creates more headaches for those guys.
Well,
playing too well.
It creates maybe potential dead money in areas that you don't want it.
Because that's exactly what happened with Troy and Heath, right? When they walked away. So
right, I'm not going to say it can't happen because we're kind of in uncharted water, here to see how they do handle this. Are they going to be willing to kind of go an unconventional route to keep a player or two to free up a little extra money?
Is it fair to say, because I know the Steelers have always been framed by the national media as in they're in salary cap hell, and it's never been as dire as the media's made it out to be. Is it fair to say they are in salary cap hell right now?
I think, I constantly call it the sins of having a franchise quarterback.
All right.
And good players. We look at the guys at the top of this list. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, you just gave him a new contract, and it had to adhere to the 30% rule too, right? So, so I mean, here you are with him having a $33.5 million cap number. All right, and what's 33.5 of 200 million?
It's I'll get the percentage for you. It's a lot. It's almost 18% of your cap space.
All right, and then you have Stephon Tuitt. Now look, do pass restructures play into this? Yeah, to some degree. I mean, would they be obviously? Could they have saved, or will they have? I look at it this way: they probably could have saved McDonald's job, but I mean, you needed the money, so that's why you did restructures. It's not like you just willy-nilly doing it. What you were doing, I mean, you call it what you will, kicking the can down the road, whatever. But you're trying to afford to keep as many good players as you possibly can through the avenues that are allowed to keep them, via restructures or whatnot. I mean, Stephon Tuitt. I mean, I'll read off your top 10 cap hits for the upcoming season here. Ben, $33.5 million. Dupree's obviously going to be in that, right? 16 point whatever, 6. Stephon Tuitt, 14.9. David DeCastro, 13.65. Cameron Hayward, 13.251. Joe Hayden, 12.5. Marquise Pouncey, 11 million. Steven Nelson, 10.75 million. Alejandro Villanueva, 8.39 million. And Mark Barron will be deleted. Then you get into your ninth or your 10th one. Is it going to be Mark Barron? Is it going to be Vance McDonald? Is it going to be neither? Is Vince Williams going to become your 10th highest cap hit at $7 million? I mean, look, I mean, if you want to keep good players, you got to pay them, right?
In your recollection, is this the hardest salary cap waters this team has to swim through in a given offseason? Has there been any more challenging situation that you can recall?
I got recency bias here.
Either way, this one's tough. I don't know where
it's
it
tough,
ranks,
and I think it's the fact that the restructure you
can't turn to.
Right, it's cut in thirds.
That's always been their solution. They're big on restructuring, done it time and time again, and now it's not really much of an option.
Right. So, look, it's going to be tight, and I think we've said as much. I mean, it's not like it's unnavigable, but it might cost a guy like Vance McDonald his job. That might be the unexpected, not unexpected, but the most unwanted casualty, I guess, of it. So once again, we're going to. I mean, I don't see other than unconventional ways of restructures, which I'll learn something along the way if that happens.
Right.
With doing some option bonuses and putting on some extra year. I mean, it can be done. I mean, it always can be done. But if they're going to do things conventional, and not put more cap liability out there in future, then
it's going to be painful.
They're going to be some tough decisions coming up. You would hope that you'd be able to get Hayward done either sooner or later. Right?
Sooner, based on the numbers, before March 18th, please.
Right. You would think that at some point, if you tag Dupree, you're going to get him done. Ideally, if you could get him done before using the tag, even the more better, right?
Yep, that would be. And that's why I think this team has to be super aggressive and upfront with their offers. They can't dilly-dally around here trying to lowball this guy. They know what the tag is. They know they're going to tag him. You got to be starting at a $17-18 million average, yearly value kind of long-term deal.
I think you got to start higher than that because if he hits free agency, what is his,
Well, I mean, that you're going to tag him. I mean, everyone knows that. So I'm just saying you need to start your discussion above the tag because anything below the tag is a non-starter. Is all I'm trying to say.
And that's why I keep going back to I think 18 to 20 million is right in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because how many times have you seen a guy tagged and signed for less than what the tag amount was?
Yeah, it's not going to be less. That's why I said 17, 18 is kind of where I'm starting at. But I'm being aggressive in trying to get this deal done because you want to get it done, and it's going to really help you with some of your other cap moves.
And poor Alejandro Villanueva.
Sorry, man. Not
and poor Juju, poor. Not that it was going to happen anyway, but James Conner,
TJ Watt. I don't think so. It's not looking too good.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine that stuff happening.
Yeah.
Because even look, I mean, your dead money's going to swell from 2.5 to what do I have in there? Like 8 or 9 million by just those 3 cuts. The dead money's going to swell on top of all that's taken into account in my numbers, obviously, and all like that. But man, I mean, and also how much are you willing to gut of your depth, like we had talk about during this conversation.
Right. Because even if you got that depth, you're going to have to just sign those guys back pretty much, or someone similar, and it's going to get that cap space again.
Right. I mean, do you really want a huge drop-off from Tuitt to whoever, or, I mean, you're already going to lose Javon Hargrave, right? I mean, You're already going to have a hole to kind of fill there. But all this, and I just got us to March 18th. So,
yeah. And I think that really puts in the light, although there could be arguments to be made for keeping Foster or Barron based on their play, when you look at the math, too, you say you really don't have a choice in this situation.
You really don't,
Because if you keep one of those guys, then I don't know what you do to get there. And you keep Vance. I mean, that means you have to cut Vance if you're keeping Foster or Barron.
Is there anybody, is there even anybody, I mean, are there any of those 3 restricted guys you wouldn't tender? I mean, would you let Mike Hilton walk?
No, if you maybe choose one of those 3, it'd be Banner, obviously, because he's your one non-starter, and maybe you could sign him for a little bit cheaper, but I doubt that. But if I had to choose one, it would be Banner.
Yeah, but and if you don't tender Banner, then he becomes a free agent and he's gone.
Probably, yeah. But
to somebody.
I mean, is that who you would choose if you had to?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to choose, I mean, I don't want to have to choose though. I want to. I mean, and who are we missing here that could be restricted tender? It seems like we're missing somebody.
Dangerfield.
Was it Dangerfield? Let me look.
I think it's Dangerfield.
I just wanted to hit on the main ones, yo.
Right.
When it comes to that, let me look real quick.
I'm pretty sure it's Danger because I know we talked about that as an earlier podcast in a cap overview. I'm pretty sure it's it.
Restricted. Oh, Cameron Candidate. Well, we haven't even done anything about a long snapper yet.
Right. But I think you probably get your 2-year deal on him.
I'm surprised that ain't happened yet.
Yeah, I think it's gonna happen soon. The Senior Bowl stuff, they'll do it after Senior Bowl.
Let's see, Hilton, Filer, Banner, and then Dangerfield. Yeah, those are your restricted. Poor Dangerfield just gonna have to. Yeah, good luck. Maybe come back on a minimum.
Yeah, veteran. I think he's probably eligible for the veteran minimum salary contract at this point.
I think he has to be unrestricted. I think he got to be 4 years, right?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Okay. Well, maybe just I don't know. Yeah, he's not getting tendered though. I'll tell you that.
Right. Let's see. And I mean, how are you going to get Finney back at this point?
You're not. That is never really my plan anyway. But you're just not going to happen.
And really, will you even have room for Matakevich or Vanette? Vanette maybe if you can get. I mean, maybe Vanette. You know what? Steelers fans might be celebrating their free agency this year as the re-signing of Vanette Matakevich. Hello.
I really want to keep Matakevich. I don't want to lose that guy. Best special teamer in the league.
They might re-sign those guys a day before the start of the new league year and then just call it, light up the cigars and go home.
Just hope the league doesn't notice.
I mean, what are you going to have for money granted, first-year cap hits of cheap contracts are low, right?
Yeah, but still, at this point, I mean, you're counting every dollar.
I mean, once again, we're going to learn real quick about how badly they need that 5-something million from Vance McDonald, and we're going to learn real quick if this team wants to get uber creative with unusual practices with these restructures.
We're depressing a lot of Steeler fans on a Monday.
Yeah, I don't know how else to frame it, though,
Yeah. No, it's good. I'm glad. I mean, it's really helped my perspective, at least. It's changed my viewpoint of the situation.
And it finally got to, once you get that working 51 that we're at now, and you get some of these, the numbers of projected cap number and the projected tenders and all like that, and can format and square this thing up, and then full understanding of the 30% rule. It really helps you. That's why it takes so long to kind of frame these things up. You look back in October there, and it's a little bit different mindset, because of the way things move. But I do think that the way to eat the elephant when it comes to this, is the one bite at a time, and really use timing points along the way here, because technically I just told you they need almost 24 and 10, like $34 million in cap space, right? The $10 million after the fact, and like
right.
the nearly 24, 25 now, that would really scare you. But fortunately, you don't need all 35 of that right now.
Right. All right. Well, I think that's a good roadmap. I think we laid it out as well as you could. And yeah, it does not look good, and that's because it doesn't look good. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation.
Now we'll see how close we come to it, because inevitably, you lay that thing out, and it's not always the course that they follow, But it'd be fun now to look back to see how close we came on this.
All right, Dave, anything else with cap stuff you want to mention? Or do
you want to I'm all worked up here now.
Yeah, you got me all engaged in this
stuff. That's a lot of math. Ooh.
I know, on a Monday. All right, well, let's transition to the Senior Bowl. Again, listening to this on a Monday, first day of the Senior Bowl. We have press conference with Jim Nagy and some notable players, weigh-ins, and first day practice will be on Tuesday, so this will be our preview episode. We're going to go just position by position. Some we'll talk about longer than others, of course, but I will start with quarterback because that is the marquee group. Justin Herbert from Oregon, Jalen Hurts from Oklahoma are the top two guys there. Obviously, we don't expect to see them to draft a quarterback high. If they do, it'd be really late. I'm opposed to the idea at all. I know you are as well, but anything at quarterback you want to point out with this group?
No, just other than I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more about them, because obviously I don't think this team's going to address the quarterback position. I think we were pretty much told as much by Art Rooney. This team has so many needs. I think that it would really take something special, I think, to happen for them to address the quarterback position, and that special would have to happen in the second round, I think. Other than that, then why bother? Would kind of be my view on it. So, other than learning a little bit, more about Herbert, along like that, yeah, I'm not going to be paying that much attention overall to the quarterbacks.
Yeah, big week for Herbert, though. Be down there with Jordan Love competing and behind Burrow and Tua. I mean, and Tua's obviously got the medical concerns, and this is a really good chance for those guys to show out and really cement themselves in that first-round, third quarterback off the board conversation.
Absolutely, and Jalen's an interesting prospect, obviously, because of athleticism and all like that, and in the age of your Lamar Jacksons and your the kid in Arizona there, he's going to get drafted, right?
Oh yeah, he'll be relatively high, I would think. I think he'll just kill the interviews. In a good way. I think teams will love him. I mean, you heard the way he talked at press conferences, his work ethic. I mean, how he was in the weight room after victories. I mean, this guy is as serious about football as it gets, and so I think teams will absolutely love him off the field. On the field, we'll see how well he performs.
All right, where to position-wise now? Running back?
Yeah, running back. Just go down the list here. Jermichael Hasty's a guy I profiled from Baylor. I think a really explosive, exciting kind of guy. Reminds me of Kerrith White, but probably more explosive, more wiggle. Antonio Gibson. You like Tony Pollard last year, right?
Right.
Almost the same dude. A little bit bigger, I think a little bit taller, but runner, returner, kick return. Only 1 year production, so that's a bit of a concern, but a playmaker in every sense of the word. So Gibson is a guy to watch out for.
Boy, what is it about Memphis?
Yeah, they got a freshman that did the same thing this year. He was kind of a similar guy. I mean, it's just been insane.
I haven't spent a lot of time whatsoever, on running back. So who are the top two that you're most interested to learn more about here of these 7-8 running backs that are going to be in Mobile?
Yeah, none of these are necessarily top guys because this underclassmen running back class is so strong. But I think Hastie's a guy I've watched a good deal of, but I'm really excited to watch him work. And then Gibson's someone I want to learn more about. He was one of those guys I just kind of glanced at and did a little bit of work on. Other guys that I've done reports on: Joshua Kelly from UCLA, he was a walk-on there, earned a starting role. And Michael P. Ryan from Florida. I know Daniel's done a report on him. Not a guy that I don't think is a special athlete, but plays with decent power, physicality, kind of a well-rounded skill set. So we'll see how he looks down there in Mobile.
Of the group that you've looked at, who seemingly might be the best pass protector?
Maybe P. Ryan. I think from what Daniel has said, and I looked at 1.5 games of him. But they'll get challenged down there for sure. But my initial thought, without watching this entire group, would be P. Ryan from Florida.
All right, wide receivers.
Wide receivers, again, Denzel Mims, I think, is going to be in a lot of Twitter highlight reels from this week. What he can do one-on-one, I think he's going to show up in those drills in a big way. I've heard good things about Braden Edwards from South Carolina. Jawan Jennings from Tennessee is a big body that's tough to bring down. I'm looking at guys like KJ Hill and James Prochet for slot receivers. Those are kind of some of the top guys on my radar.
All right. Once again, that's I know thanks to you, I know a little bit more about the Mims kid already there. So of that group, which one kind of best profiles as a potential Steeler? Mims?
Mims, Pittman Jr., I think, has intrigue there. Bloodlines, his dad played in the NFL. I think was a running back for
Tampa Bay,
Michael
right?
Pittman. Yeah, it sounds right. Yeah. Him, Prochet from SMU kind of feels like it too. A lot of these guys could fit. I haven't watched as much on guys like Van Jefferson from Florida and Duvernay from Texas. I got one game on him, didn't love it, but I feel like I'm very incomplete on him. But I would kind of say Pittman Jr., Mims, maybe Prochet. Those guys seem to fit the bill well.
See, I know absolutely nothing about this Pittman kid. 101 receptions last year. Wow.
Yeah, I wore the long speed. I'm a little worried about. I want to see, obviously, the combine, how he runs is going to be, I think, pretty important for him. But he is a bigger player.
He had last season 23 plays, 23 receptions of 15 plus yards. Only had 15 of 25 plus. You would think on 100 something receptions, that's probably a relatively low number, right? Is he more of a what position does he profile best as?
I'm thinking Z, but I've really gotten like one of those game and a half kind of guys I've looked at, okay. So I am incomplete. I think someone has a report on him, either written or coming. I'm getting names mixed up at this point, but good chance to see him work this week.
Who's going to be the fastest one of this lot?
Oh, that is a good question. I think if he asked Nick, I think he would say Duvernay. Maybe there's some guys I haven't watched. The Arizona State kid, I've heard good things, have not watched him, could not get to him. Maybe Van Jefferson. That is a good question. I could not give you a great answer on that.
All right, tight end.
A lot of these guys are bigger. I was looking for some slot, smaller, shiftier types. Didn't see at least in terms of just their listing, didn't see a lot of those guys in this wide receiver class.
All right, tight end definitely going to be interesting. I know you're going to be all you're probably not going to leave Troutman alone, are you? And I don't blame you there. I'd like to learn a lot about him, see what he can do as a blocker, and again against top competition coming out of Dayton there. I think you've already done a little bit of work on Stephen Sullivan at LSU. I know we've already had talks about Pinkney out of Vanderbilt. I've looked at him a little bit. I've looked a little bit at the kid out of Michigan, McKeon. Obviously, Bryson Hopkins might be the guy to really keep an eye on this weekend. I've got a lot of Purdue games pulled. I hope to get through a few of them this weekend. And that Harrison Bryant kid is another kind of more wide receiver-ish, I think, than tight end.
Well, let's see how he weighs in. I think it's a weigh-in will be really important for him. He's listed 6'5", 240. If he is that weight and size, then you can work with that. If he's smaller, then that might be an issue. But I think Hopkins has been my favorite guy I've watched so far. I've watched most of these guys. I didn't get to Bryant, and that's about maybe the only guy I missed besides Troutman. Obviously a big stage for a Dayton kid. And then, McKeon's a good blocker. Stephon Sullivan will be important because he just didn't really see the ball much in college this year playing tight end. Let's see if they play him at tight end or receiver. And then even Josiah DeGuero from Cincinnati is an interesting guy. I got a bit of a look at. It's a high-effort guy. Remember that tackle against UCLA that got posted on Twitter? He ran like a Ben Watson, ran like 80 yards to stop a pick six, and that was DeGuero that made the tackle. So I think it's a good tight end class, and I think they're all jockeying for position to be the guy, and this will be a great stage for someone to take that lead role.
Do you think every one of these tight ends at the Senior Bowl will be at the combine?
It feels like it. I'm not sure what name wouldn't be. No, my guess is that yeah, all will be in attendance.
Okay. Definitely gonna go ahead.
Real quick, what is your reaction? I know it's not Senior Bowl, but the Thad Moss finally declared. We've been talking about Thad Moss for all week, and we didn't know if he was going to declare. He did finally declare. What's your kind of reaction to that news?
Yeah, my initial, and look, I mean, all I've done is a contextualization of his 50-something targets, right? On that. Now I have looked at about 45% of other snaps there just by association of it. Okay. Going through the gains and all. He is a little bit better blocker, I think, initially than what I thought. But even so, man, my initial thought is he's not a first or second round guy. Now, I don't have much to compare him to when it comes to the tight end class, or really, I mean, the overall class. I mean, is he a top 50 player in this draft class? Right now, I would say no.
Okay, I think this is just my initial guess. Obviously, very much subject to change, but I think he's right around that top 50 where he's going to go, and that's obviously going to be in the Steelers' range for their first pick at 49. But obviously, a guy that is, you made the point. This is a one-year production guy.
And when it comes to receivers, now I know I put that out there. I failed to differentiate between offensive or defensive here. But you remember we wrote and talked about Boykin, I think, last year. And remember that post I wrote about receivers and production, X amount of receptions generally. What was it, over 100? I had to go back and read my own post. I forget the numbers on that. But generally, and that's all it is. It's not a hard. I guess it is a hard trend going back all the way back to Colbert's time, though. But generally, offensive skill position players like that, they like a little bit of production there. And he is a one-year kid, and there's not a lot of him separating down the field. Okay, a lot of his stuff has been underneath stuff. And even look, you're not gonna discredit a kid for a blown coverage against Oklahoma, but that's what it was. Blown coverage in that situation. I'm interested to see at the Senior Bowl. Well, not at the Senior Bowl, at the Combine. I want to see him. I want to see him run. I want to see him out running those drills out. Going vertical and all like that, because to me, you got a lot to have to project on right now with him.
Right, and that's my point. Is it's hard to know where to project him because everyone's just getting to know who this guy is. And scouts, usually the way it goes, you have your junior pro days, and that gets on scouts' radars for guys to look towards for the following year. But this is a guy that kind of came out of nowhere, and you're just learning about him as the process goes along. So evaluations can change really quickly as scouts and organizations get to know who Thaddeus Moss is. And so I think that makes him really tough to project.
And look, I haven't looked at his complete route running yet. And I haven't looked at every aspect of his blocking yet. But he didn't play hardly at North Carolina State, right?
Yeah, right. He's got almost no resume prior to this year with LSU. But I will say, in terms of production, I get your point, but I think you have to have a different benchmark with tight ends as opposed to wide receivers in terms of the production benchmark.
Right, but he was an underneath guy. He's running. A lot of what his catches were coming underneath crossers and him just settling down against zone stuff, And really red zone production. What did he have? 4 or 5 touchdowns, and 2 of them came in a national championship game.
Yeah.
Now they obviously have a lot of weapons over there. Or had a lot of weapons. Oh boy, they got gutted.
They really did.
There, but I don't know how much to read into. I think there's one report out there that the NFL advisory board told him to stay in school. Okay, we don't know if that's correct. It's nice to point to that when I said last week I think he should stay in school. But right. I don't really know, if they, half of those damn reports, we're at that time of year anyway where half that crap you can't believe anyway. You got to put your damn eyes on it, But my initial feeling of him, I kind of wonder what we'd be talking about him if his last name wasn't Moss.
That's a fair point. Yeah. I hear you.
And look, I mean, you make a great point. I mean, the Steelers obviously love the bloodlines, right? I mean, there's no denying that with Edmonds and Watts and the Watts and I mean
Bush and Hayward.
Hayward, yeah. It's hard to ignore that aspect of it. It really is. But
and he's Power 5. He's underclassman.
Sure.
That is the profile of a top Steelers pick, just on paper.
But it's a little bit harder projection with him, I think, because of just 40-something catches on 50-something targets, you know?
It is. I'd love to know, what skill player at any position had the fewest amount of receptions that got drafted by the Steelers under Colbert's tenure. I'd just be curious what the floor is. I mean, I know no one has the answer to that. I mean, it could be a running back. I don't know, Jonathan Dwyer, I assume, didn't have many catches at Georgia Tech, but I'd just be curious of a list.
Oh, you mean including running backs?
I guess maybe not include running backs. Maybe just have tight ends and receivers.
Well, I mean, look at I would cut the line off at like a third round or something, you know?
Yeah. Okay,
because look at Gentry last year.
Yeah. Well, how many catches did Gentry have?
Not many.
No, I thought it was. I mean, just in his career, I didn't think it was a super low number. Maybe I'm wrong. He had 49. Yeah. Okay, you're right. It's about what Moss did.
Say that again. No, just kidding.
You work for the Astros or something? You're wearing wires all the time.
You see that gif from what was the baseball movie? Naked Gun. Where they said the first time the guy comes up to plate, they're gonna frisk him like that and all. I certainly, what a mess that turned out.
Do you think they were wearing? Do you buy in that buzzer stuff? I kind of do. It's kind of hard not to.
I don't know what to believe when I got enough information on that I'm dangerous. You know?
when they're already proven cheaters, they don't get the benefit of the doubt. I don't think.
Yeah, man, what a mess. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Sometimes, though, right?
Pirates certainly aren't cheating. I can tell that they are playing clean as anyone.
Let's see. Look, I mean, I'm not going to sit here in January 17th and make a hard call on Moss, especially not. I mean, look, I don't even know who the top 49 players I think in a draft will be. Far from that at this point. Do I like him more as a third rounder? Absolutely. But will he be on the board at that time? I don't know. But my initial impression was, man, would we be talking about this kid and he not scored 2 touchdowns the other night against Clemson and his name not be Moss?
You're right. I don't think we would be, not to this degree, at least. And he might not have declared if he didn't catch 2 touchdowns in that national championship game. He might have gone back to school.
I don't know. You could also look at it too. Look, I mean, he ain't. I mean, go back. Who's he going to have throwing to him? And what all could he prove? If you're playing with a lesser quality, maybe quarterback and offense, and half their damn offensive line, I think, declared, didn't it, or is coming out? So I hope that that national championship will be good for recruiting, I'm sure, but it kind of makes you wonder where that team's going to be next year. Competing in the SEC.
Right. Good problem to have, though, for Coach O and company. But back to this tight end class for the Senior Bowl, I think it's a good group. My eye is certainly on Bryson Hopkins from Purdue, though.
Just to clarify, you're obviously higher on Moss than I am, right?
Yeah, yes, I think, but I've watched less than him. I may come to your conclusion the more I watch on him. I got a long ways to go on Thaddeus Moss, but my initial reaction was that I think this guy can be a Steeler.
And I have a long way to go on him too. I'm trying to watch a little bit more of his of how many times they used him. In the line of scrimmage or as an H-back, and how many times he split zone and that kind of stuff, and how he fared in those instances, and if there's enough to work on, because he's a little bit undersized too, right? At what is he, 6'3"?
I don't know what his listing is actually. Let me try to pull it up here.
6'2", almost
6'3", 249. Yeah, the weight's okay. The height, because he's probably 6'2.5".
Okay.
And we won't know till the combine on that. Yeah, I'm excited to watch his teammate, Stephon Sullivan, at Mobile. I'm excited, and hopefully I get to talk to him because he's got a really good story. I want to get to know Stephon Sullivan a little bit.
Somebody already said on Twitter that I hate him, that I hate Moss.
No, you don't hate Moss.
All right, what our position? Defense now or offensive line?
Yeah, offensive line. We'll go through that. John Simpson from Clemson might be the best name down there. Nick Harris. Now, you don't like Nick Harris too much, but he's kind of one of the few true centers on these teams. So that is a name that I think you want to pay attention to.
I limited work I've done on him, seeing him get shot back.
I will say this: I did some research. Since 2000, of players that have attended the combine, and I'm imagining Nick Harris will be at the combine at Indy. There have only been 11 offensive linemen 6'1" or shorter that's been drafted. Nick Harris is listed at 6'1", 302. None prior to the fourth round, but 3 of those 11 were drafted by the Steelers. Do you know who those 3 linemen are? 6'1" or shorter.
One of them's a kid we talked about out of Penn State the other day, right?
A.Q. Shipley's one of them.
A.Q. Shipley.
2 others, 6'1" linemen drafted by the Steelers since 2000.
Since 2000.
And these are all
was it the Nebraska kid or no?
No, not Keith Williams. No, you're on the right. You're on a decent track, but not Keith Williams.
The Big Ten kid. Played. Was it the center guard that ended up playing for Buffalo? 3rd round pick.
Craig Urbick? No, Urbick was a bigger dude.
I thought he was bigger. No, I'm drawing a blank.
All right, it's Chucky Jacoby.
Okay.
We leave that Chucky Jacoby and Marvin Phillip from Cal. Back in I think 06 it was. Remember correctly?
Yeah, Marvin didn't. Yeah, he didn't stick. And really, no. Chucky was just a backup for how many games did he start? 6?
Yeah,
5?
Not many, but he was in the league for like 9 years with Pittsburgh and Arizona, so he stuck around for a while and turned rapper.
To me, those don't count.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying there's a history there with Pittsburgh and smaller offensive linemen. But I mean, this guy might come in at 6 foot, which is pretty rare for an offensive lineman.
I wonder what. Look, it's going to depend too. Look, he can be a little bit shorter. Like they better have some long arms. Did he look like he had long arms on tape? Okay, he might be a little T-Rexy, a little Legursky and Shipley. Another couple of LSU guys down there be interesting to watch. Trey Adams at tackle, Tyree Phillips at tackle from Mississippi State. I didn't get to offensive line as much as I would like to. Ben Bredson from Michigan. He's kind of an old school guy with I think a limited upside. I kind of compared to Mark Glowinski, kind of at his best. Real thick, bottom side to him. Thick legs.
Yeah. Well, Simpson's, bubble butts. John Simpson, Clemson's got that big butt.
But I'm talking. Look at the Michigan kid's legs, man. He didn't look like he moved too fluid,
Yeah, it wasn't great, but tough dude, team captain. I mean, some boxes that he will check. The Steelers will, I think, like.
All right, flip to the. I don't know much of anything about these defensive players you're going to go over here.
Yeah, and Neville Gallimore, I talked about him for one of the first guys I watched. Really impressed by him. Devon Hamilton, Knicks looked at him. I got a game on him. I think there's a little bit of explosiveness there. Benito Jones is kind of more of a classic plugger. He's got to stay on his feet. He's on the ground way too much, but there is a little bit more burst and athleticism with that first step than I would expect. And when he plays with good technique and stays on his feet, he can hold the point of attack. So Gallimore, the guy I think could really make some money this week.
When it comes to those, is Gallimore going to be in every down? And can he play like the 2-eye or the 3?
I think he's very much like Hargrave. I think he can kind of be an all situations type player. I mean, he won't probably be every down, but he can pass rush. He can play the run. I think he's well rounded.
So we're looking at maybe 2nd or 3rd round kind of guy.
Yeah, I think he could be in that conversation for number 49 if he gets that far. Now, I think this dude's going to run fast at the combine. This dude could run 4.8 something, and if he does, then he's probably not going to get to 49. And he's going to 10 split. I think is going to be really strong. But if he were to fall, maybe he doesn't run quite as well. Runs maybe a 5 flat. Maybe he's there at 49.
Any of these guys project a classic 4 or 5 techs?
Yeah, I tried to look at some of these ends. There's really not a whole lot of these true classic type ends. Robert Windsor from Penn State, I got a game on him, was not impressed, but he kind of feels like a potential UDFA that finds his way in the Latrobe.
All right, what about the edge guys?
Daryl Taylor Jr. from Tennessee. I've heard really good things. The guy that can get after the quarterback, fluid going backwards in the coverage, kind of really profiled as well as a 3-4 outside linebacker. Josh Uche from Michigan. I think is probably best as an off-ball linebacker. I think he's got tremendous bend. I mean, this guy can run under the coffee table, kind of like Von Miller, but I think he's just too slight a frame, too underpowered to be an every down kind of guy. Probably needs to work better in space. I kind of compare him to Devon Kennard a little bit. It's kind of a hybridish type player.
All right, so just a handful of those guys would project as 3-4 outside linebackers in.
Yeah, Tom Meats profiled Alton Robinson from Syracuse, who had really big talent, supposed to go to Texas A&M. Read a really interesting article that he got, I think, a robbery charge against him, and it really kind of changed his path and took a long road to get where he is, but has a lot of talent, and I think this is a chance for him to answer a lot of questions off the field, but then really kind of prove it on the field as well.
Any of these off-the-ball kids going to have the Steelers' interest?
I didn't watch a lot of him, to be honest. I think Anthony Jennings is being listed as an inside linebacker. He played a lot of edge with Bama. Not a great athlete, but a really smart pass rusher. I've liked him for a while. I've talked about him to a small extent. I think the Steelers will like him. I'm not sure where he's going to go. I don't think he's going to test that well when he gets to Indy, and that might be a problem for Anthony Jennings.
All right, what about some? You looking at any cornerbacks or safeties?
I got to a couple today. Dane Jackson from Pitt, 2-star guy. I think Pitt was really his only legit offer, and he was a basketball player. I'm surprised he actually did not play in basketball, but I like his patience. Christian Fulton from LSU. I think he struggled.
He did. He had. I remember. I tweeted about him during that game. Yeah. He had a rough first half. I remember that.
Okay, so I haven't watched him, but I saw him in the game. I know that he had struggled a bit, and then
against Higgins, didn't he? Wasn't Higgins?
I think T. Higgins. Yeah, and then Michael O, because I can't pronounce his last name, from Iowa, kind of feels like a bit of a Steelers corner. That's a willing tackler and decent athlete. So just got a game on him earlier on Friday, but we'll get the corners are easy to watch at Mobile because they're doing these drills and they're wide open. You can watch these guys one-on-one to get a decent feel for them. So I'm kind of going to learn about the corners on the fly.
What about any of these safeties? What about this Reggie Robinson? You watch any of him?
No, I did not get to Reggie Robinson. Do you know anything on him?
No, I don't. I thought I saw his name on the Twitter machine. But any safety stick out to you?
Yeah, a couple. Ashton Davis. I watched another game on Ashton Davis from 2018 out of Cal. Really impressive with him. Great angles, physical, attacks the football, can make plays. Brandon Jones from Texas is a well-rounded guy that runs well. Jaron Pinkney's a guy I didn't love on tape, but a one-year starter guy, really high recruit coming out of college or coming out of high school, and maybe this is a chance for him to really open some eyes and make some money. So I think, but Davis and Jones from the guys I watched kind of caught my attention.
Obviously with the Steelers in the past, when it comes to these All-Star games, if they draft seniors, which last year they obviously ton of underclassmen, right?
Mm-hmm.
They obviously tend to go to these guys that we're at one of the two main All-Star games. They have had drafted before some of the NFLPA guys in the past there, but primarily kids that come out of either the Senior Bowl or the Shrine Game, and also go to the Combine.
Right, yeah, the history there is pretty strong. I'll have to go back to the old articles we've written on that kind of history, but it's safe to say that one or two of these guys that get drafted by Pittsburgh will be playing at Mobile.
Yep. All right. Any other kind of things that you're looking forward to going down to Mobile? While you're down there in Mobile, any specific drills or things along those lines?
No, not really in terms of the drills, just some of the guys that I want to talk to. I mean, I'd love to be able to talk to Hasty and Mims, the Baylor stuff. Those guys got some really good stories. Mims is a ferocious blocker. I'd love to know where that came from because the reputation for those Baylor, those spread guys used to be that they just would never block. They take plays off. I don't see that with Mims at all, so that's interesting. Sullivan, I really want to talk to him. McHugh would be kind of fun to talk to. Maybe talk about Zach Gentry a little bit. Ton of Michigan guys down there. Talk about Devin Bush and Don Brown and Harbaugh. It would be a lot of fun. Yeah, Dane Jackson's got a good story too from Pitt, local guy, can kind of connect with a Pitt product. So Media Day will be it's always chaos down there with Media Day. You just kind of get thrown to the wolves and you're just trying to grab as many interviews as you can in that short time, but it's a lot of fun.
All right, and you'll obviously be transmitting back measurements or whatnot, and I'll get those up on the site. Try to take a real clear picture of them because I.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I obviously with Daniel down there. Daniel may be tweeting out stuff. I may be writing stuff down. We'll find a way to tag to make this a little bit better. But yeah, weigh-ins are early. They're at like 6 a.m. on Tuesday. I mean, bright and early, and then they have lunch, media day, practice. It's a lot going on that day.
All right, so you're not going to have a lot of time for The Bachelor then, right?
No, I think I'll be skipping this week's episode.
All right, here's a final stat on. Let's see here. I told you in total the Steelers have drafted. This was before last year's draft. In total, the Steelers have drafted 20 wide receivers dating back to 2000, Colbert's first season in Pittsburgh, and all but two of those players, Martavis Bryant and Antoine Randall, caught at least 82 passes during their college careers.
And Randall L. was a quarterback. So.
And Randall L's an extreme outlier with his 7 college receptions at Indiana, and that's because he played quarterback. The fact that the Steelers ultimately selected him as a wide receiver in the second round of the 2002 NFL draft is still astounding. And looking back at his long NFL career, one hell of a job was done projecting what he could potentially become at the position. And as for Bryant, who was chosen by the Steelers in the 4th round of the 2014 NFL draft out of Clemson, like Boykin, because this was all kind of centered around Boykin in this article, like Boykin this year, meaning last year, he was essentially just a one-year producer in college, as 42 of his 61 total receptions in college came during his final season at school. Bryant, however, did register 23 receptions that gained 25 yards or more during his college career, and was thus easily classified as a potential Z receiver who could stretch the field at the NFL level effectively. For sake of comparison, Boykin registered just 11 receptions during his college career at Notre Dame that resulted in gains of 25 yards or more. He's the one that also blew it. He's the one that blew it out at the combine too, wasn't it, Boykin?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really impressive athlete.
What did he do for the season with the Ravens? You remember?
A couple touchdowns. I can pull up his stats. It wasn't a lot of volume, but there were some big plays in there.
13 receptions, 198 yards. Whew.
3 touchdowns on 13 catches.
3 touchdowns, yeah.
10 first downs.
I think a couple of those were fades, weren't they? But
I'm betting they were.
But anyway, he was a guy you and I both had quite a few conversations about last year and all like that. So that's a cutoff when it comes to receivers, was caught at least 82 passes. Now that's receivers only under Colbert. So.
Right, yeah, I don't know how that translates to these guys, and obviously tight ends are in their own category.
Right, so, and it's not like they've drafted a lot of tight ends over the years, right?
They really haven't, yeah, especially high. I mean, Spaeth, Miller, I think there's only 2 tight ends they've ever drafted, on day 1 or day 2, right? I think that's it.
And Spaeth was the
Mackey
Award winner, wasn't he?
Yeah, weird career. Never was a receiver in the NFL, just a blocker only. But long career.
Right. Obviously,
Spaeth did have good production, though. I mean, yeah, I think I just looked at it. He had like 100-something catches in his Minnesota career.
Right. People just forget, man. He was a good blocker with the Steelers early on.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. But yeah, the tight end history is slim. I mean, Gentry will help add to my list and kind of what they look for, but it is really uncharted territory with that position.
And I tell you,
so many questions.
Right, and I tell you, if they wind up parting ways with McDonald here, and regardless of what they do with Vanette, it's gonna be a huge gaping hole there that's gonna be hard to ignore. And I know Colbert might try to fill it with minimum salary, or damn near close to it guy, during free agency sometime. But I wouldn't look for that to be a big name whatsoever,
And remember, rookie tight ends do not translate well. They do not have good rookie years statistically. I mean, it is so rare to find a guy to even have more than 400 yards in the season in his rookie year. So it's just tough to count on those guys year 1.
They could have had one a few years ago.
I know. It could have been. That would have solved a lot of problems.
It sure would. It sure would. All right. What else you got for us? I hope you guys have a great trip. I'm sure you guys will. I look forward to reading and watching all the stuff that you and Daniel put out there as well, too. So be careful down there. And as far as another podcast later on this week, we'll kind of play it by ear. Maybe not put something up, I don't know, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'll have to see what some of the other crew are doing and see if maybe we can have some draft prospect talk with. If not, if one doesn't get posted by the end of the week, Alex and I will be back at it again the next Monday, right, Alex?
Yeah, for Monday for sure. We'll be back to do a new podcast.
All right. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. Let's see. If you're up for donating, help us alleviate some of this travel costs here. Go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button, up right navigational bar. Also, if you'd like an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com, go to the website and hit the ad-free button, up right navigational bar for $25, just $25, you can have a ad-free version of the site for 1 calendar year. You help yourself, you help us in the same action there. So in the meantime, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.